Okay, like I said last week, we are going to introduce you to module 2 this morning. And module 2 is aptly titled Governance and Management of IT. Here you're going to learn all that it takes to govern IT and all it takes to manage IT. You are also going to get introduced to the structures that manage and the structures, most especially, that governs IT. You also get to know why it is important or key for IT to be governed and not just managed, right? Why is it important for IT to be governed and not just managed? And what is the dichotomy between governance of IT and management of IT? Now, you in this module 2, you'll be introduced to relationships between your organization and your IT department and an external vendors, external contractors. So look out for the word like align, alignment, aligned. So wherever you see any of those three, just know that you as a professional is expected to know that at any point in time, there is supposed to be a relationship between IT and the organization, between IT objectives and corporate objectives, right? There must be an alignment between them. If there is a difference, if there is a distortion between IT objective, for example, and management corporate objective, then those corporate objectives will never be achieved as long as that organization is automated, right? So you at any point in time must emphasize and ensure that there is an alignment between corporate objectives and the IT objectives, between what is happening in IT, or between the strategic plan of IT and the corporate strategic plan. There must be an alignment. So when you think of alignment, aligning, think of a relationship between A and B. Think of a harmonious relationship between the IT department and the organization. Think of marriage between a man and a woman, right? Think of a synergy, a uniting between IT and the rest of the organization. Because if such a uniting does not exist, then none of corporate objectives and goals will ever be achieved, right? So that is how it goes. So I just said, let me mention this to you guys so that you can have it at the back of your mind so as to know that there's need for such a relationship if corporate objectives must be achieved, right? So as we go on, I will continue to bring out whatever you need to know. All right, so governance and management of IT. So this slide exposes us to some definitions, right? For example, it suffices for us to know what corporate governance aims at achieving, right? If you want to go from the general to the specific, because what we are interested here is not just a corporate governance. We are more interested in IT governance. So we're going from the general to the specifics. So when we get to know, first of all, what corporate governance is, then we can now narrow it down to what we expect IT governance to be, right? Now, corporate governance has to do with ethical issues. What is ethics? Right and wrong of a behavior. Behavior that is expected of members of a particular organization, right? So that if they don't behave in such a way, corporate objectives might not be achieved, right? What is it that fosters ethical issues in an organization? Corporate governance. It says ethical issues, decision-making practices within an organization must be fostered through corporate governance practices, right? In an environment where you do not have corporate governance practices, right? Then it now becomes very, very difficult to enforce ethics, right? It also becomes very, very difficult to make decisions because you don't really know who is supposed to make decision or the structure that is supposed to make decision. Now, it says these are some definitions that have been adduced by experts, right, in the past. It says corporate governance, really. It says the system, it is a system by which business corporations are directed and controlled, according to Sir Adrian Cadbury. A system by which business corporations are what? Directed and what? Cooperate and what? Controlled. If you look back to your environment, you should be able to key into this definition. Do you understand? So all that goes into the directing and controlling of your organization, right, by a particular structure, by a particular organ of the organization is called corporate governance, right? Whatever it takes for them to achieve that is called corporate governance. Now, 2, the set of responsibilities and practices used by an organization's management to provide strategic direction, thereby ensuring that goals are achievable, risks are properly addressed, and organizational resources are properly used. That is corporate governance. So whatever your management does, I repeat, whatever your management does, so as to provide strategic or long-term direction, whatever they do, right, to ensure that goals are achievable, whatever they do to ensure that risks remain at the minimum or that they are addressed, whatever they do to ensure that organizational resources are not wasted, all that is what? Corporate governance. Now, OECD, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, also proposes a definition that is worthy of our examination. It says corporate governance spells out the rules and procedures for making decisions on corporate affairs. By doing this, it also provides structure through which the company objectives are set and the means of attaining those objectives and monitoring performance. That's according to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. That's how it has defined corporate governance. So, but like I said, we're just moving from general to the specific. Now we have an idea of what corporate governance is. Is that not so? So let us now look at, let's narrow it down now to IT governance or enterprise governance of information technology. So that's why we're looking at enterprise governance of information and technology, meaning how is information and technology governed in your organization? Who is responsible? What is this role? What is the structure? What do they do? Right? Now, so enterprise governance of information and technology is represented by the acronym EGIT, right? So if I'm saying EGIT, without going through the route of calling everything, spelling everything out, we know what I'm talking about, right? So EGIT is a system through which all stakeholders in an organization, namely the board, internal customers, departments, they provide input into decision-making process. So enterprise governance of information and technology is a system through which, that's what I'm trying to say. All right, so EGIT is a system through which all stakeholders in an organization, the board, the management, and other people, IT department, through which they make their inputs into what eventually becomes decision. You understand? decision making in an organization is not just that the executive management and the board of directors, they just come up with whatever that pleases them, right? They put into consideration what even members of staff feel is necessary, you understand? Because if you make decision, you guys are the top. You now sit down around the table in your boardroom and make decision, right? Sometimes if that decision does not go well with the people, the foot soldiers, they will do everything. Yes, they do everything to frustrate that decision. Is that not what happened? So it means that for you to come up with a decision that will be acceptable by all, right, towards the progress of the decision, it has to be a synthesis of ideas from different sources, even sometimes from external third parties. Do you understand? All right. Now, it says EGIT is also a system used by directors. Now we have now named the structure that is responsible for IT and information governance, right? The structure that is responsible for IT governance, right? Of course, IT here now stands for information technology, right? Good. It says that structure is therefore the board. That's what it tells you. EGIT is a system used by directors who account for IT resources on behalf of stakeholders. Now, directors will look to management to implement necessary systems and IT controls, right? So while the guys at the top, the executives, the board of directors come up with a particular decision, they will look to middle level management, IT specialists, IT management to implement their decisions. That's what we're being told here, right? To implement their decisions, to implement necessary systems, to implement the necessary IT controls, etc. In red, well spelled out, EGIT, or in other words, Enterprise Governance of Information and Technology, is the responsibility of the board and executive management. That could be a question, that could be an answer in your system. They might just simply ask you, who is responsible for IT governance? You just stick without looking at other options. The board. If it is written there, the board, you tick the board. If it's written the board and the executive management, you tick, right? But if it is written the executive management without the board, you tick executive management, right? But if it is written the board and another alternative also says executive management, which one will you tick? The board. Do we get it? Fine. That's how to go about it. Now, what therefore is the purpose or the purposes of governing IT? Why should IT be governed in the organization? One, to ensure that IT performance meets the objective of aligning. That's the first occurrence of that word, right? You good. So your board should govern IT so as to ensure that whatever is done in IT department, right, aligns with what? God bless you, sir. Mary, you are still with me, right?
Yes, sir.
So the first purpose there is that to ensure an alignment between what? IT objectives and corporate objectives. Because that is only way that the promised benefits of investing in IT will be what? Realized. If there is no alignment, IT people are doing what pleases them. At the corporate level, we're doing what pleases us. It now becomes a laissez-faire organization. Everybody do as you please. Will corporate objective ever be realized? No way. No way, sir. Right? So to ensure that there is an alignment, then IT must be what? Governed. Two, should enable enterprise exploit opportunities and maximize what? Benefits. That is another reason why IT must be governed. Right? you recall and you remember that it is these guys at the top that eventually will disburse funds for whatever technology you want to go for, right? Good. If they are not involved in governance, you cannot just go stay somewhere and make decision and come and ask them to give you money. They will question you, right? Good. So that an organization may take advantage, may exploit opportunities offered by a particular technology, right, towards the realization of the promised benefits of such a technology, then IT must be governed. To ensure that IT resources are used responsibly, it cannot be overemphasized. IT resources are expensive. Investment in IT, investment in technology is expensive. So you cannot afford to do what? To waste resources. Don't even think about it. Right? Don't even think about wasting IT resources. So when you find out in the organization that a particular IT resource is being wasted, it is your responsibility to call such a person or such a department to account for it. Right? So to ensure that opportunities are exploited, to ensure that resources are not wasted but are used judiciously, prudently, responsibly, govern IT. The next one, that IT-related risks are managed appropriately. Is another reason why IT should be what? Governed. All right. So we have seen those 4 purposes. Now let us now look at these broad issues that are addressed by enterprise governance of IT, of information and technology. Right? What are the broad issues that are governed by each IT? 1, IT resource management, which is concerned with maintaining an updated inventory of all IT resources and address risk management processes, right? It's a IT resources management or enterprise IT governance is interested in ensuring at every point in time there is an up-to-date inventory or record of your IT resources, what you have, right? There must be an inventory maintained of them so that you don't have flash drives, right? So that you don't have 5 128 gig flash drives in your store. And somebody will put in requisition for 264 gig flash drive, and you go to Otigba and buy 264 gig flash drive when you have 5 128 gig flash drives. What the heck? If you make such a decision in your department and you go and buy 264 gig when you have 5 128 gig, then you would have wasted your organization's IT resources. Remember, IT department at the end of the year, at the beginning of the year, they make budgets, right? You would have wasted, even if one of those flash drive is 5,000 naira, you would have wasted 10,000 naira of the organization's scarce resource buying a technology that you have, right? So that is why EGIT ensures that there is an updated inventory of all IT resources. It also ensures that what? Risk management processes are addressed. We're going to see more on risk management, right? Performance management focuses on ensuring that all IT resources perform as expected. EGIT is also interested in ensuring that all your IT resources are performing as what? Expected, right? Because if they're not performing as expected, right, then you cannot get value for money from them, right? Now, compliance management focuses on implementing processes that address legal or regulatory policy and contractual compliance requirements. EGIT is interested in knowing that all that you are doing in the organization, especially IT-wise are in compliance with legal and regulatory frameworks, laws of your country, regulatory frameworks of the governing body or the regulatory body of your organization. Almost all industry types have regulators, right? The women that grind pepper, when they grind pepper at street corners, they have regulators. When they default, they will come and cut away their machine. The vulcanizers have regulators among themselves. If it is time for them to go to meeting or to make their contribution and they don't, see these regulators in action. They will unleash their hounds on them and then they come and do whatever. The banks have CBN too, and for other financial institutions have CBN. Those in food processing and drug, they have NAFDAC to contend with, right? So EGIT is ensuring that whatever you do your organization is in compliance with regulatory frameworks, with the laws of the land, even international standards. Now, I talked about governance and management dichotomy earlier on, and that is more exposed to us in COVID-5. COVID actually is a control objective for IT and related technology. COVID, that's what it stands for. Control objectives for IT and related technology. It is actually an ISACA specific IT control framework, right? Now you can also certify as to COVID-5. You can, just as you're preparing to write for CISA, you can prepare and write for COVID-5. That will make you an IT control expert, a world-class IT control expert, right? So it now gives us a glimpse of the dichotomy between IT and management. It tells us that governance ensures that stakeholder needs, conditions, and options are evaluated to determine balanced enterprise objectives are achieved. It sets direction through prioritization and decision making and monitoring of compliance against the agreed on direction and objectives. On the other hand, management plans, builds, runs, monitors activities in alignment with direction set by governance body to achieve enterprise objectives. So what this is just telling us in a nutshell is that governance ensures that stakeholder needs, whether internal stakeholders or external stakeholders needs, ensures that stakeholders needs, conditions, options are evaluated and are achievable, right? Governance also sets the direction of what happens with IT or to what use IT is put in an organization, right? That governance is also responsible for making decisions and also monitoring that these decisions are complied with. So while governance does all this, it tells you that management, their main responsibility is to implement the decisions reached by the guys in the governance structure. That's why it tells you management plans, builds, runs, monitors activities, take note, in alignment with the direction set by the governance body. Do you get that? That's English, right? So why the governance structure is interested in ensuring that stakeholders' needs are met, why they are interested in ensuring that operational objectives are achieved, why they are interested in providing directions, they make decisions. It is the responsibility of management to plan, to build, to run, to monitor, to ensure that all the activities are in alignment with direction set by the corporate body. EGIT is one of the domains of enterprise governance. So if, for example, I decide to go to the whiteboard and use a marker and draw a large circle, right? And draw a circle on the board, that circle will represent enterprise governance. That circle will represent enterprise governance as a whole. Now, if I decide to carve out a subset out of that circle, and I carve out a subset, that circle will be what? EGIT. So we're saying that EGIT is a subset of enterprise governance. Is that understood? Good. And that it deals with how IT is applied within an organization. If you don't remember everything I've said about EGIT, just remember, italicize in blue, that EGIT deals with how what IT is applied within an enterprise. So EGIT is specific to IT. It's not talking finance, it's not talking human resources, it's not talking admin. It is specific to IT, right? It deals with how IT is applied in an organization. Are we good? Mary, I know Mary is there. All right.
Yes, sir.
Now, continuing with enterprise governance, it says effective enterprise governance focuses individual and group expertise and experience where they can be most effective. Take note also, right, that when we're talking about enterprise governance here, please, I need you guys to situate your mind in IT, right? Because fine, this is IT class, right? So situate your mind in IT, not in finance, except if we have reasons to mention finance, not in human resources, not in admin, except if we have reason to mention sales and marketing. Or situate your mind in IT. So when we're talking about what it takes to have effective IT governance now here, situate your mind in IT, not in abstraction, right? Good. So effective enterprise governance focuses, even though enterprise governance deals with all these areas, but we're talking IT. So effective IT enterprise governance focuses individual and group expertise and experience where they can be most effective. Does anybody have an inkling into what that is telling us? Does anybody have an inkling into what that is telling us? It tells you that you guys are practicing effective governance in your organization if the governance structure is able to achieve what we just read out in green, in blue, if it is able to focus individual and group expertise and experience where they can be most effective.
That's pushing the software where they can be most effective for an organization. Are we helping that organization?
You will say what we're saying, where we're saying is. How do you mean are we helping that organization?
Because so the entire entity should be your concern. So, but if you are not telling me to focus where you can be most effective, so where I can be most effective might not be where I will be more profitable, might not be where I will survive. So instead of looking at, just like saying today, I'm in school, I naturally am doing it quantitative. You understand? So as soon as I'm studying accounting, I'm good with calculation. If I focus on calculation alone, would that give me a desired grade? Because the school does not teach only calculation courses for me. So I should be focused around it, or whether I like it or not. I must put my energy, make sure that my grades are put here and there.
Okay, thank you very much for your submission and input. Do you know how white people bring up their kids? Right? Fine. See how they bring up their kids.
That's experiencing.
Yes. Amazing is here. All right. So I said, do you know how white people bring up their kids? How they discover their kids from infancy? Say, you're not, you're a robo man. It's understandable, no problem. You see, when they find out that their child is interested in a particular sport, right? They develop that child along that line, concentrating the effort. They can pay for a tutor for that child. When their child is interested in music, is interested in playing guitar, right? They don't mind paying for what? A tutor to come after class, train that child on how to play guitar, how to play piano. You understand? So that child at the end of the day grows up to become, an expert guitarist, an expert in whatever field. And that's because the parents were able to identify the talent of that child right from when that child was a toddler. Do you understand? But then that is by the way. Now look at the statement here. It says, effective enterprise governance focuses individual and group expertise and experience where they can be most effective. And like I said earlier on, situate your mind in IT and IT alone. And what is this statement telling us? It's telling us that, you remember we said earlier on, we said IT resources should not be wasted. Instead, they should be used judiciously, prudently. Is that not so? Fine. So this statement is giving credence to that statement earlier on that IT resources should not be wasted. So it's telling us here now that if, for example, this is IT department, and you, Mr. Olori, is the head of IS Audit Department. This is IS Audit Department. You, Mr. Olori, is the head of IT Audit Department, right? And then you want to go to Enugu, right? Your department needs to go to Enugu to audit a database. We are 15 members of staff. All of us are IS auditors. By the way, there are actually areas of specialization in IS auditing. You might decide to be a specialist in auditing applications, right? Somebody might decide to specialize in auditing network devices and even network cables. Somebody might be a specialist in data analytics. You can use a tool like ACA to pull data from a database and run 100% analysis, right? Somebody might be an expert in auditing and providing security to a database, right? So there are areas of specialization. Now, if, for example, we want to go to Enugu to audit our data center, and auditing that data center will mean auditing the cablings, auditing the firewalls, the routers, and the switches. Focusing individual and group expertise and experience where they are most effective means, right, that we will be going to Enugu with people that among us are experts in auditing cables, auditing a firewall, auditing a switch, auditing a router, right? If we now decide to move everybody in this department to Enugu, that will be wasting organization's resources. Do we follow? Good. Now look at it from another point of view. Some years ago, I learned, and it was true, right? Glow, right? Employed somebody. That guy read computer science while in school. Then he now came out and read ACCA. Now he became a chartered accountant. What did they call it, right? ACA, right? He became a chartered accountant. Now he applied for a job with Glow or at Glow. And they employed him and then made him what? Guess what? They made him an IT auditor. Maybe you will not be able to answer that question now, or this question I'm about to pose to you guys. Maybe you're not able to answer it now. But by the time you have finished this program, you'll be able to know whether that guy, whether Glow was justified in appointing that guy as an IS auditor. right from the word go, just because he read computer science and then he is a chartered accountant. But from my experience, more than 13 years in this field, I know that guy straight from school will never be able to function as an IS auditor. That you are an IT person, you studied IT, BSc, computer science does not make you an IT auditor. It comes with training and experience.
But you know, in the corporate world, at the entry level, that's recruitment is perfect. For experienced person, is wrong. So as doing is coming in as experience, that being a total thing. But an entry person who's coming in with the things, now he has a better entry behavior than a regular person.
What will be his designation?
As he's coming in,
Yes.
is IS auditor and beginner?
Or should be called an IS auditor?
Yes, it's not a permanent things. In the corporate world, your title, whether you are any level you are, it can be trade today. I'm joining, I didn't study anything trade. When I joined banking 14 years ago, 15 years ago. You understand? Even when it came, the woman told me that, then you want to start from. But in 1 year time, I was a staff. I mean, I'm saying it because the place is not right. Do you understand? So there are some entry behavior you learn. Now, if I'm a good computer science student and I have accounting background, and I'm taking it through an IS audit department like this,
you will learn faster.
Certainly. So, well, when we are bringing in beginners, we don't expect them to come and do magic. But we are looking for entry behavior from them, so that you are not coming to a world that is totally strange. You have this 5 years to even know where you are. No. With such a person, all they just need to is just encourage him. He has a mentor in that same field. Do you understand? So if you come for a class like this now, to not sing for me and there, some of this technology will not be strange to me. I don't know if you get it.
I do.
He's coming from IT background, whether we like it or not, all these things will not be totally strange to me.
At all.
He has finance background, whether we like it or not, he has heard of the word audit before. He did it deeply. If you're a professional accountant, you know what I'm talking about. Only that he didn't do it on the side of IT. So if you fetch from here, his learning will be fast now. Do you get it?
I do.
Exactly. So these are very, very critical.
What if I tell you that that guy was not given an entry
So that's
just because of where he is from and it's on the right side of the country? Just because it's on the right side of the country and knows who knows somebody.
That's their own mistake.
All right. All right. So those things must be those kind of things must be avoided. And that is what we are looking at, focusing individual and group expertise and experience where they can be most effective towards the realization of corporate objective. Right? Now, it says thanks to EGIT, information technology, once considered an enabler of an enterprise strategy, is now regarded as an integral part of that strategy. You see, when I started out 2007, 2008 in this field, the same CISA manual that you have before you, right, will tell us that IT is an enabler. That is, enables an option, fine, enables the realization of corporate objectives. But now it's not telling us that it is an enabler. It is an integral part of the corporate strategy for survival.
But it's clear now. If you look at banking in IT was like a small office. I remember I just have one small office with a few guys. We look at them of more coming to help us plug our system to work.
Fine.
Help me put this.
But now everybody, yes.
Today, it's IT that owns the system.
Of course. That's why we're saying here that it is no longer seen as an enabler. It has now been agreed, right? Has been part of the strategic survival strategy of an organization or not. So that's why we're saying that what an organization does with IT can either make it or what? Mar it. And that is why IT must be what? Governed. No wahala. So it now says people in the C-suite in organizations. People in the C-suite in organizations. Some people call it C-suite. It's not C-suite, it's C-suite, right? As in
Oh, so
hotel suite.
the suite for
Yes.
hotel is also pronounced here.
Yes, it is suite, right? The guys in the C-suite, you know them. Your CEO, they have now come to agree that strategic alignment between IT and enterprise objectives is a critical success factor. Meaning,
It's the part of it.
where there is no alignment between IT and the enterprise, nothing happens.
The,
If there is no alignment between them, nothing happens. See, we are now beginning to understand why IT should be governed, not just managed. Right? IT governance makes these strategy, these alignments possible. How? By economically, efficiently, and effectively deploying secure, reliable information and applied technology. Take note of the area in blue. It is critical to the success of an organization that it cannot be relegated to IT management or IT specialists. It must receive the due attention of both under the guidance and supervision of senior management. See how critical IT is. It is so critical that you cannot afford to leave IT, right, in the hands of IT management or in the hands of IT specialists alone. Do we get it? Fine. Therefore, a key element of enterprise governance of information and technology is the alignment of IT and business, leading to the attainment of what? Business value. Without an alignment between A and B, there cannot be attainment of value. You just waste millions buying into a particular technology, and then you won't even realize any value from it because no alignment. EGIT is concerned with two issues. What are those issues? One, that IT delivers value, right, through strategic alignment of IT and the business. Two, it is also concerned that risks are managed. How? By embedding accountability into the enterprise. Right? Good. So EGIT is concerned with those two issues. IT must deliver value, risks must be what? Managed. It integrates and institutionalizes best practices to ensure that IT supports business objectives, right? It incorporates best practices. Best practices are formed or as operational in Fortune 500 organizations across the world, right? What they are doing to get it right, what they are doing to achieve results. Those are best practices. You can now integrate them into your what? Your EGIT or into your governance, and that will enable your business to achieve results. It enables IT to take full advantage of its information, thereby maximizing benefits by capitalizing on opportunities provided by IT. So EGIT will enable your organization to take full advantage of the benefits accruable to a particular business that has invested in a particular technology. EGIT is therefore a structure of relationships and processes used to direct and control the enterprise towards the achievement of its goals. To govern IT, executive management must address the following three topics: benefit realization, risk optimization, resource optimization. Before, there's a statement I mentioned earlier on, before Chidobe joined us, and I said that in this domain, you will see the word alignment, aligned, right? That wherever you see them, think of a synergy, think of a harmonious relationship between IT and the enterprise. There must be an alignment between what is happening in IT and the organization for organizational goals to be achieved. There must be an alignment, a synergy, a uniting, a marriage between corporate objectives and what? IT objectives. If there is no such an alignment, corporate objectives will never be what? Achieved, right? So corporate objectives and IT objectives are not two parallel lines that will never meet. There must be a point of convergence. And at that point is where alignment is attained. It's at that point of alignment that organizational objectives will be what? Achieved. So we also said that the guys that are responsible for IT governance is basically the board. Is that also? So when you come across this in question, ISACA question, CISA question, I say who governs IT? If in the alternatives they put the board and executive management, that is the answer. If they put the board, A, executive management, B, then there is a C, there is a D, right? Please choose what? The board. If they now put A, audit committee, they put IT management, they put executive management, and then D, they put IT manager. Please, what are you going to choose? Executive management. Are we getting it?
Okay, that's the access of board.
Yes. All right. So EGIT is considered for the sake of Chidobe. EGIT stands for Enterprise Governance of IT, of Information and Technology. Enterprise Governance of Information and Technology. So why is EGIT considered important? It says business managers and the board are demanding better returns from IT. I repeat, business managers and the board are demanding better returns from IT. They could not have spent millions on a particular technology and not expect better returns, right? So for such better returns to accrue their way, it has to be what? Governed. There are also concerns over increasing level of IT expenditure. If you know, you know, right? If you are in finance, if you are in IT, you know that it is actually a concern. Some organizations that as we're going to see, I think in Module 1, spend up to 70% of their yearly IT budget maintaining legacy systems. That is huge. Very good. So there are concerns over increasing level of IT expenditure. So if you are spending so much, then the organization should also expect to derive so much value, right? But if they are not, then that's where the problem comes in. Needs to meet regulatory requirements for IT controls in such an area as privacy and financial reporting. You can lecture us on financial reporting, but I'm telling us that privacy issues is gaining ground all over the world. Privacy issues is gaining ground all over the world. You think of UK's Privacy Act of, I think, May 2018. You think of GDPR, right? Governing Europe. America has their own privacy laws. Canada has their own privacy laws. All over the world, they have their own privacy laws, right? So privacy issue is a big issue all over the world, right? And as an IT auditor, you might tell yourself, okay, I'm not a privacy officer. I did not become, I'm not satisfied, I'm not certified as a privacy officer. right? But still, compliance is incumbent on you, right? Compliance is incumbent on your organization, because if your organization is not compliant with privacy laws, they will pay and pay fines and pay fines and pay fines, right? In places like UK and US, some of these fines are in the range of millions of dollars, right? So if, for example, your organization employs you and then you do not pay attention to privacy issues, and there is a breach, there is a leak of, private information, personal information of your customers and clients now is in the public domain. The organization will fine, the regulatory bodies and on the law will fine your firm millions of dollars. And then when your firm is done paying millions of dollars, they will now turn their attention to you. They will now ask, why are we paying you so much? Why are we paying you so much as an IS auditor? So privacy is becoming a big deal all over the world. So it is for this reason also that EGIT is considered important, right? Remember?
So that is because of the audit, you would recommend for the recruitment of
privacy. Yes.
So recommendation. So
yes.
Such a recommendation. If there's any issue, you can fall back to that I recommended for
yes. It should be a rule. There should be a rule. There should be a privacy officer. There should be a privacy officer. His goal is ensure that nothing happens to our data. Right. So, and that's because of the need to meet up with regulatory requirements. Otherwise, the selection of service providers and management of outsourcing and acquisition. We're going to see that later in this domain too, but not today, right? But governance is interested in the fact that the right service providers are selected. The right vendors are selected. Vendors should not be selected because the MD of that company is the cousin of our MD. So okay, let us give him that job. There are criteria to be met before a particular vendor is selected. Like I said, we leave that for a later date, but it's a governance issue, right? So that the right vendors are selected, it should be governed. IT governance initiatives that include adoption of control frameworks and good practices to help monitor and improve critical IT activities to increase business value and reduce risk. How do you adopt a particular framework? I told you earlier on, COBIT is a framework, right? And there are a whole lot of other frameworks out there. ISO, ITIL, there are other frameworks out there. Which do you adopt? It's a governance issue. The need to optimize costs. We said it earlier on that many organizations, 70% of the IT budget are spent maintaining legacy systems. Legacy systems that should be flushed down the drain and replaced. But you are spending so much maintaining them. Could it be that some people are feeding facts? Some people in IT are feeding facts. They are feeding facts. That is why your organization will need you as an IS auditor to get it right. Because you as an IS auditor will be auditing at the highest level of management, the board level. Your report, your IT report, your audit report will help them to reach certain decisions, but not to maintain legacy systems and every day not to make budgets.
The agency and maintenance cost, place that can build in-house. You know very well you can build it in-house, you have the resources. You don't want to do it, but someone, we've seen it us. We've seen it us.
Yeah. All right. The growing maturity and consequent acceptance of well-regarded frameworks, the need for the enterprises to assess how they are performing against accepted standards and peers. There's need for you to assess periodically how well are we doing as an organization? How well is our IT department doing compared to a peer organization in the same industry?
So is that also the function of the auditor?
Might not be the function of an auditor, right? But an auditor too should be interested in what is this organization doing to get it right and our organization is not doing.
I'm agree, because I just remember now that the modern audit is now broken into two wings. There's the consultancy part of your function. Yes. And there's assurance part of your function.
Yes. Audit role in EGIT is what we're going to look at after this slide, right? So enterprises are concerned with best practices guaranteed by established control, etc. Look at the last bullet point. It says IT is also governed by good or best practices. These ensure that enterprise information and related technology support business objectives, deliver value, resources are used responsibly, manage risk appropriately, and measure performance. Right. So these are the things that good or best practices will ensure. So like I said, we want to look at audit role in governance, audit role in IT governance, audit role in IT governance. Audit role in IT governance. It says audit plays an important role in the successful implementation of EGIT within an organization, right? And when we're talking about audit here now, we're looking at IT audit, right? Good. Audit plays an important role in the successful implementation of EGIT within an organization. It says how IT is applied within the enterprise will have an immense effect on whether the enterprise will attain its mission, vision, or strategic goals. That is well understood, right? Good. For this reason, an enterprise needs to evaluate its IT governance as it is becoming an increasingly part of the overall enterprise governance. Remember, I told you earlier on that if we draw a circle and call it EG, enterprise governance, I will now draw a subset, carve out a subset and call it IT governance. It says IT governance is becoming an increasingly important part of the overall enterprise governance, right? It is becoming an increasingly part of what? Of the overall, meaning that the role that IT is playing in an organization continues to grow or has continued to grow through the years. Do we get it? All right. Ladies, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Chidobi? Now, so audits is so we're still looking at the role of audit. It says audit is best positioned to provide leading practice recommendations to senior management to help improve the quality and effectiveness of IT governance initiatives implemented, right? And that is why when you as an IS auditor audit, you submit your audit report. All right. So we're saying that audit is best positioned, that is IS audit is best positioned to provide leading practice recommendation to senior management and the board, of course. That is why when after a particular audit engagement, you forward your report up to the board of directors, for their action. So you, in that instance, you are helping them to reach a particular decision, because based on your opinion, based on your audit report, they can reach a particular decision as it has to do with IT and the organization. It says audit as an enterprise that monitors compliance, helps ensure compliance. So we monitor compliance with compliance to corporate policies, compliance with regulatory pronouncements, compliance with policy, compliance with privacy issues, compliance with laws of the country, right? So we monitor during the course of our engagement. We monitor whether a particular individual, whether a particular department, whether a particular service, whether they are complying with this or that, and then we also put that in our report, because we are discussing roles of IS audit or IT audit in governance. Now it says the continual monitoring, analysis, and evaluation of metrics associated with IT governance initiatives requires an independent and balanced view. And then who else is in position to provide such an independent and balanced view, if not audit? Remember, as auditors, we are independent of our auditee. If I have come to audit you, Mr. Olori, you are my auditee. I am the auditor, right? I am independent of you. After carrying out my engagement, you may have your disagreements, we will discuss. Still, I'm forwarding my reports based on my findings, right? I will still put in your disagreements, forward my report. I am independent of you. Do you understand? So we in audits, IS audit, we're in the best position to provide management with an independent, balanced view of what is happening in IT. I talked about, KYC, cover your ass report the other day, right? Right? So an IS auditor will not write a cover your ass report on behalf of anybody. Even if the report should be damning, let it be damning. No be you send a message, not management send a message, no be so, right? So we provide independent and balanced view of issues and then report back to the guys at the top. That's why it tells you that reporting on EGIT involves auditing at the highest level in the organization. Yes, we audit at the highest level, which is the board level, right? Now, the IS auditor should therefore confirm that the terms of reference, right, towards a particular engagement states the scope of the work to be done, right, including a clear definition of the functional areas and issues to be covered. If I am going to audit new account, right, I should be told, what am I going to audit in new accounts? Am I going to just go into there to see if really the documentations, or whether they really carry out a search or not? That may be my scope. So whatever my scope includes should be stated. If I am going to Abeokuta, we have a particular whatever division there, and I'm going to audit their firewall. And they have 3 firewalls at Abeokuta. I should be able to be told which of the 3 firewalls am I going to audit? Am I going to audit the 3 of them, or a particular one? Which one? Do we get it? Now, your terms of reference should also include your reporting line. At the end of the day, who do you submit your reports to? Right? As a matter of control, we don't submit our report to an individual. We don't submit our report to an individual, even if you are the MD of the organization, right? Because it's a control measure. If, for example, report has taken place or there have been misappropriations, right? And then we report to the MD. MD and the IT manager, they are 5 and 6. You know that report can be swept under the carpet. So we don't submit our report to an individual. So the scope should also establish reporting line. The scope should also establish your rights to access of information. Your right to access information. Not when you go get your auditor's place now, they'll be holding information from you. Right. The organizational status of a particular auditor being considered for a particular engagement should also be looked into for appropriateness. What does that mean? You said earlier on we talked about somebody going to Abeokuta to audit a firewall, right? Somebody going to Abeokuta or Enugu to audit a firewall. And this place is telling you the organizational status and skill set of the IS auditor should be considered for appropriateness. What does that mean? It means that if we are going to audit firewall, it is the people that know how to audit firewall that should be sent. Do we get it? Good. And if there's, for example, a support staff that we also want to expose to auditing of a firewall, then he or she should go with them. Fine.
Okay, but I want to ask a question. If I understand very well that you find the school before you start the job. But assuming you get there and you find out that for you to be able to do that your work, there are other things you need to do. So that means your scope is changing. How do auditors manage that? Or not being an auditor?
The scope changes will also the scope changing, right, will also increase perhaps the budget for that engagement. It must also increase the duration of that particular engagement, right? So let management or your IS audit management know the developments.
So as I went to Laguna, so I should probably call them able to say this need to happen, we need to expand, we need to do that.
So if yes, let them know so that if there's need for you to expand, they will let you know. It's not your call. It's not your call. For example, you get to Enugu and then you discover a fraud has taken up or indicators of fraud, what we call in CFE, what we call fraud red flags, right? You now discover fraud red flags during the course of a particular engagement, right? You're not supposed to jettison your audit and start investigating fraud, right? But you should escalate, right? You should escalate your finding, your opinion, right? What you think has taken place or what you think, and then escalate to IT management. And let IT management, if they deem it necessary, escalate. You understand? All right. All right. So that is what it means to consider the skill set of a particular auditor when you are considering a particular assignment. If, for example, this is a guy, an IS auditor. Now, going back to that guy that was recently employed, entry level, right? That guy that studied computer science, that has ACA, entry level, and he has been on the job in the last 3 months, right? Do you think that guy will be the right person to go and audit the head of finance? And you are sending him to head an audit team, to head a particular engagement. Would that be appropriate? No, that is why it says you should consider the status and the skill set of the IS auditor should be considered for appropriateness for a particular engagement. Now, where this is now found deficient, if, for example, there is something that needs to be done internally, but you are not able to, you don't have this employee with the skill set. For example, you don't have anybody in-house that can audit a firewall. What do? You are sourced. The second bullet point says so. It says where this is found insufficient, the hiring of an independent third party to manage or perform the audit should be evaluated by the appropriate level of management. So it is still not automatic. It must be what? Evaluated by the appropriate level of management. So it is not a decision by the IT department, by the IS audit department. Okay, we're not able to do this. Okay, why don't we call Control Ideas Consulting to come and help us do it? Right? Is your department to pay Control Ideas Consulting? Right? So you can now just put it across to top management, and we are unable to do this. So we are recommending this. Leave it to them to consider, because it's them that will engage Control Ideas Consulting, not you. It's them that will pay Control Ideas Consulting, not you. All right. That's why underlined, italicized, by an appropriate level of management. These are key. Now, in accordance with the defined role of the IS auditor, the following aspects related to EGIT need to be assessed. 1, how enterprise governance and EGIT are aligned. To what extent is this alignment need to be assessed? The IS functions alignment with the organization's mission, vision, values, objectives, and strategy. You need to ask yourself, what is the extent of alignment between what is happening in IT and the corporate mission, vision, strategy, etc., etc.? What is the extent of alignment?
So that's well, we said that the reason why in today's banking environment, the head of before we also have head of IT. But in the last 5 years now, the last year, we're getting IT and services, one person. Yes, IT and services, it's not headed down. So that person will have head of IT reporting to him, head of service reporting to him. So that fraction that used to be there before, IT don't care, this one don't care. Now that 2 of them are reporting to one person, it helps to sync.
It makes for alignment.
A lot of shots. I'm just thinking about it.
Good. Right. So, all right. So, in accordance with the defined role of IS auditor, the following aspects related to EGIT need to be addressed. How enterprise governance and IT are aligned. We've seen that one. We've seen the second one. Achievement of performance objectives, effectiveness and efficiency established by the business and the IS function also must be assessed. How do we assess what is happening in IT? Right? Are they performing? Are they living up to billing? Or are they just there wasting our money? Are they achieving their objectives? Right? Are we getting value for money from IT department? All these needs to be assessed. Now, the IS functions achievement of performance objectives established by the business. That we've just seen it. We also look at the legal and environmental framework. So the legal environment, the information quality, and fiduciary. Fiduciary has to do with what really? Trust issues. Trust. You also need to look at security requirements in IT. Right? Look at the control environment of the organization. Are there adequate controls? Are the controls current? The controls, are they able to mitigate identified risk? You also want to look at inherent risk within the IS environment. What are inherent risks? Risks that are
risks that are not yet without control yet.
It's not even that they are without control yet. There are no controls.
Yes, the risks that is embedded.
Yes. Risks that are there, no matter the internal controls you may have in place. For example, in the banking industry, what is the inherent risk? Fraud is an inherent risk. No matter what you do, no matter the controls you put in place, there will always be fraud. The risk in the food and drug processing industry, the risk of what? Adulteration will be there. No matter what NAFDAC does, they can never eliminate what? Adulteration. So these are inherent risks that, has to do with a particular industry, right? IT strategy committee. IT strategy committee. Here we need to take a look at IT strategy committee because it's an area that you cannot write CISA without seeing questions on. IT strategy committee. Whose committee is it? What are the functions of IT strategy committee? So pay particular attention to this area. Now, it says the creation of an IT strategy committee is an industry best practice. Take note, is what? An industry best practice, meaning it is highly recommended that an organization should have what? An IT strategy committee. Now, let's dive deeper. It says the IT strategy committee needs to broaden its scope. Take note and decipher their roles, their functions, right? What is expected of that committee? We go. It says the IT strategy committee needs to broaden its scope. It does what? It needs to broaden its scope, not only on advice on strategy when assisting the board in its IT governance responsibilities, but also to focus on IT value, risk, and performance. So this one bullet point tells us a lot about this IT strategy committee. First of all, it tells us that this is what the committee does, right? Namely, that it assists the board in its IT governance responsibility. It also tells us that the board is a structure that is what? Responsible for IT governance, right? So it tells you that IT strategy committee is actually what? Is committee of the board. Is a board level committee. So what we're doing here now is what? A board level committee that does what? That assists the board of directors in their what? IT governance what? Responsibility. Since morning when we started, we have been emphasizing the fact that what? The board of directors is primarily responsible for governance. Is that not so? Good. So this committee is there to assist them in governing IT. But we're not saying that it has become necessary, especially in contemporary times, for this board, for this committee rather, to broaden the activity, to broaden their horizon as it were. They should cease concentrating on playing advisory roles. They should be interested in IT value. What can we do as a committee to ensure that our organization derives more value from IT? What can we do as a board to improve IT performance? What can we do as a committee, right, to ensure that risks are managed appropriately? So they should not just concentrate on advising the board. They should be interested in how IT can create more value for the organization. They should be interested in how risk can be managed appropriately. They should also be interested in what? How performance can be improved on. Do we get it? Good. So that is it for IT strategic committee. It's a committee of the board, but we're not done. We're going to see more. Because if I ask you guys a question like, what is the necessity for an IT strategy committee? Above and beyond what we have talked about them, what do you think is the necessity for what? Because they say it's highly recommended. It's a best practice. Why? Why does a board also need an IT strategy committee to assist them in their governance responsibilities? Let me not tax you so much. I hope our sisters are listening in at home. The answer is not far-fetched. Right? The answer is not far-fetched. How do I make it? Oh, you want to take it? So I was like, what's the necessity for having a strategic committee of the board to assist them in governing IT, in their IT governance responsibilities? And I said the answer is not far-fetched. You know why? You know what? Something about the makeup of a board of director of a particular company. So members of your board are just businessmen and women who just throw in their money, right? Somebody like, for example, somebody like Dangote or Otedola is a member of your board. He's also a member of the board of several organizations. He's also running his own business. Is that not so? Good. Some members of the board of directors of some companies in Nigeria are army generals, retired and serving. Some are politicians, notably. Some are market men and women who have money to invest. And so they all make up the board of directors. Now, for all these people that I've mentioned, how many of them are IT savvy? Yeah, you look at it now. How many of them are actually IT savvy? Except members of the executive management that also are members of the board. For example, Jim Ovia, while he was there, he's an IT person. Do you understand? Good. So if you're in if the board is meeting and they're discussing IT, right? Maybe apart from Jim Ovia, there may be two other people that will really understand what they're talking about IT-wise. Meanwhile, these are the guys that are saddled with the responsibility of governing IT. How do they govern what they do not know? Therefore, the need for there to be an IT strategic committee of the board to help them, to explain things to them, to break it down in the language they will understand. Yep.
So a board of 20 members, and we are all from the environmental background that we talked about. So who will not be the member of the committee? Are we going to be?
Who will be member of what? Of this committee?
Yes, because all of us here now, business people, none of us are 90, we are board members. So for the sake of this strategic committee, are we going to handle for people? Or in the information of the board, we must make sure we have IT persons. I'm trying to get clear.
You're going to get it clear, right? That it is a committee of the board doesn't mean it is made up 100% of members of that board. You're going to see. You're going to see presently. So we go on meanwhile. As a committee of the board, it assists the board in overseeing the enterprise IT-related matters. How? By ensuring that the board has internal and external information it requires for effective IT governance decision-making. Additionally, the organization has had steering committee at executive level to deal with IT issues that are relevant organization-wide, right? These are two committees now. We are talking about an IT strategic committee, which is what? A committee of the board of directors. But we're saying that there could also be another committee, an IT steering committee, which is what? An executive level management committee. Right? So two committees, one belongs to the board, one belongs to executive management. Strategic committee, steering committee, executive management. We're learning. It says there must be a clear understanding of both the IT strategy and IT steering levels. The ITGI, that is IT Governance Institute, it has issued a document that clarifies these two committees. So in your manual, you will see a whole lot of information, right, about this IT steering committee and IT strategy committee, their functions, their responsibilities in your manual. But now, the question you were asked is an important one. And we said that this is a committee that helps the board to manage IT. And considering the fact that members of the board may come from all walks of life, many of them are not IT savvy. They're not even interested in IT. And that is why it is recommended that when we write a report to the board, right, we should not make it too techy. It doesn't have to be too technical because you're dealing with people that don't understand technology, right? You break it down in the normal day-to-day language. What the board actually is interested in is the naira and kobo, the bottom line. Are we making money? Yes. How much? In billions of naira, and everybody's happy. We're not making money. What was lost? What is the value of the loss? You tell them, and everybody think of what to do, right? But the report you give them, especially if it has to do with IT report, does not have to be techy. Doesn't have to be too technical. It shouldn't even be technical, right? You're reporting a language that they will understand, right? So talking about members of the committee, strategic committee, it could be some members of the board that are techy, that understands IT controls. I think we're able to see it in the future. Members of the board that perhaps that are techy, right? Members of the executive management that understands IT controls, right? You might even think perhaps the IT manager, the guys in the C-suite. Do you understand? These are the people that make up this strategic committee. You understand? You cannot bring in a market woman from Oluwole market on the island, or Nnamdi Azikiwe, and then bring him, and he's a member of the board of directors, and you think you want to make him a member of the committee. You go just sit down there and look him. All right? Or you go and bring one of my Igbo brothers from wherever that he's a billionaire. He has just poured in money into your business. He has a number of businesses that he's looking after. And you think you want to come and be telling him about database and whether firewall is working or not. What is his business with that? You'll be wasting your time. You understand? So you select both internally and externally people that get the job done for you. They constitute that committee. I think we're still going to see more of that later. All right. Balance scorecard or standard IT balance scorecard. This is also a brazier that you cannot escape not seeing a question. So I'm going to point out the pertinent things you are going to need to be on the lookout for. So IT balance scorecard or standard IT balance scorecard, whichever one you want to call it. Say the standard balance scorecard is a process. Originally, a balance scorecard, the standard balance IT scorecard is a process management evaluative technique, right? That can be applied to IT business governance process in assisting IT functions and processes. What we're learning now is one of the instruments used by the strategic committee, right? One of the instruments used by the strategic committee to help the board of directors reach their decisions, right? Because it's an instrument that would help them decipher whether IT is doing well for the organization or not. Now, it begins by giving us an information. It says that a balance scorecard, it was originally a process management evaluative technique, right? But it has now been incorporated into IT, right? In assisting IT functions and their processes. So what was once a process management technique has now been introduced to IT. It says the balance scorecard, now that it has been introduced to IT, goes beyond the traditional financial evaluation, meaning that under process evaluation, under process management, it does financial evaluation. But now in IT, what it does goes beyond financial evaluation.
No. That's in finance, it was very major finance. Balance scorecard, what's captured here is correct, but just as it is, and we have said, okay, we're going to IT, it's still measuring the same thing. Because
it's still measuring financial evaluation, but it has now increased
finance, it's also measuring beyond finance. That's what I'm saying now.
All right, go ahead, read it as if.
He said the balance scorecard goes beyond the traditional financial evaluation. He did not say it was the traditional finance. Because even the finance was also brought it into the traditional. This same English word was also used in finance that we are taking balance scorecard to kill our traditional evaluation. We also brought it in to kill our tradition. In those days, we're facing only financial metrics. We now look at it that financial metrics is not enough. We now brought balance scorecard to now put both finance, internal process, customer satisfaction, and no balance scorecard back up my head. Because in finance, they will also tell you that there was a time our metrics was only finance. Today, to correct it, we now brought in balance scorecard to help us look beyond just finance.
Are we saying something different?
You are saying it as it was only IT that came to make the correction. That's what I'm saying. No, same correction is doing in IT. Just what it did for now.
Have you applied it? I'm saying, have you applied it in process management before?
In process.
In process management.
Yes. Now that's where it's coming from.
Yeah, that's where it's coming from.
Yes.
Fine. In process management, was it beyond? Did it incorporate customer satisfaction of
Yes.
management?
That's what not 5 million.
Four legs.
Finance, customer satisfaction, internal process. Then there's one how to do learning. Yes.
Ability to innovate.
Learning.
Yeah, learn. That's the same thing. Ability to innovate.
About 4 levels.
You know, this thing in different disciplines, it's explained different ways. Like this operational ability to innovate now. In another one, might not be called ability to innovate.
It's called
even in this other ISACA certification that I'm preparing somebody for, certified in risk, whatever, right? CRIX or something like that, right? That class is also called something else. Is that now? No problem. Thanks very much for your input. What is important here is that we are looking at it from different 4 legs here, right? Like I said when we began, we said we need to note the silent points of what ISACA will test you on. So just know that ISACA will want to know that you know that it is used in IT to evaluate for financial evaluation because we are still in IT. So we should situate our mind in IT. ISACA would want to know that as an IS auditor, that you should know that the balance scorecard is used for what in IT to do what? Financial evaluation, 1. 2, as a measure of customer or user satisfaction, 2. To gauge internal or operational processes, 3. And what? To gauge the ability of your IT department perhaps to innovate, right? So if you're able to know these 3 or these 4 areas, right? And they ask you, please be able to identify these 4 areas, right? Now it says that these additional measures drive the organization towards what? Optimum use of what? IT, right? These additional measures drive the organization towards optimum use of what? IT. Now it says, which is aligned with the organization's strategic goals, while keeping all evaluation-related perspectives in balance. Now, it also says that a balance scorecard, when applied to IT, it says to apply balance scorecard to IT, it says a 3-layer structure is used in addressing the 4 perspectives. What are the 4 perspectives? The 4 perspectives that we just looked at, right? Ability, internal operations, then ability to what? Innovate. Now it says there is a 3-layer structure that is now used in addressing these 4 perspectives. Have you read them up to this level? Have you studied them up to this level?
No.
Where did you stop in IT balance scorecard?
Yeah.
Where did you stop in IT balance scorecard?
I don't know the balance scorecard is 90 now. I know it is that's not what I'm telling you. That in finance it also measures across all these segments.
So we're now saying that when you now apply balance scorecard to IT, right? You can now use a 3-layered structure to address or to implement those 4. So we don't want to look at those 3-layer structure now. The first of the 3-layer structure is mission, right? Now, if, for example, the mission of your organization or of your IT department, for example, if you are Google, if you are Facebook, if you are whatever, if you are maybe Oracle, if, for example, your mission is to become the preferred supplier of information systems, that could be a mission. If your mission is to deliver effective and efficient IT applications and services, if another mission is to obtain a reasonable business contribution of IT investment, that is your mission. Now, that is the first structure. The second structure is strategies, right? If those are your missions, there has to be a way that you have to come up with strategies of how to apply those missions. Now, one of the strategies may be that you can aim to be a developer of superior applications and processes or operations. You can aim to develop user partnership and greater customer services to enable you to achieve any of those missions, right?
Yeah.
Good. You can aim to control your IT expenses for one. You can aim to provide business values to IT projects. You can also aim to provide new business capabilities or even to train and educate your IT staff, right? So this may be one of the strategies you can implement to achieve those missions. Now, when you have now implemented any of these strategies, right? There should be a way of knowing whether you have achieved results or not, right? There will also be measures. There will also be a way of measuring whether you have achieved results or what, not. And that is where you have to develop sets of matrices. So you'll be able to see whether you have achieved result or not. One of the matrices might be your key performance indicators, right? That will enable you to know whether you have achieved your result or not. In all fairness, ISACA is not going to ask you to implement balance scorecard. What ISACA is interested in knowing is that you know those 4 perspectives, right? So that when you see those 4 perspectives in your alternative, you can choose them. 2, they are interested in knowing that you know the 3-layer structure, the mission, the strategy, and the measures. That's what ISACA wants you to know, right? They also would want to know that you know that inputs for coming up with the balance scorecard can come from end users, from the COO, from process owners. It says use of an IT balance scorecard. See here now we are being specific. IT balance scorecard, not just a balance scorecard, right? Which could be applied in finance, which could be applied in process management originally, etc. We are in IT. It says the use of an IT balance scorecard, not a finance balance scorecard, not a process management balance scorecard. The use of an IT balance scorecard is one of the most effective means to aid the IT strategic committee. You know, I said it earlier on that I said is a tool used by what? The IT strategic committee, right? To aid the IT strategic committee and management in achieving IT and business alignment. So if they ask you what is the primary tool or what is one of the important tools used by IT strategy committee and management in achieving IT and business alignment, because that's what it aims at achieving in IT. Just tell them you are looking at an IT balance scorecard, specifically an IT balance scorecard. Now look at the objectives. It says the objectives of an IT balance scorecard. 1, It provides a vehicle for management reporting to the board. 2, it fosters agreement among stakeholders about IT. 3, communicates IT performance, risk, and capabilities. Right? These are objectives. So there isn't much to it. As long as we know those 4 perspectives and the 3 layers, we're good. To know those ones, any question from IT strategy as IT balance scorecard, we just spend 5 seconds on it and tick and move. Do you understand? All right. Now, information security governance. Information security governance. Remember the large circle we drew area, the imaginary circle we drew earlier on, and we say this is enterprise governance. And we say a subset is what? IT governance, right? We are now going to create another subset, right? But this subset that we are creating now, we are creating it within that IT governance subset. And we're going to call it what? Information security governance. So it says within IT governance, right? Information security governance should become a focus activity. So it means that information security governance is what? A subset of what? Period. Those beautiful ladies at home, are you still there? Right, so information security governance is a subset of IT governance. It says it is becoming an area of activity with focus interest. It says within IT governance, information security governance is information security governance should become a focus activity, meaning we should pay a lot of credence to information security governance. Question is why, right? But note the value drivers, first of all. Value drivers here means that if you see all these things constant, it means that you guys are paying attention to information security governance, right? But if any of these are missing, then you guys are not doing as well. You're not paying attention, right, to information security governance. So you look at the value drivers, it says integrity. And we talked about integrity last week, right? So it means that at any point in time, your data meets integrity test, right? Your data are always complete, accurate, all right? They are not doctored, they are not manipulated, right? They are not modified, then your data is of integrity. Good. So the integrity of your data and information is a specific value driver, right? So that when we see it, we say, you guys are doing okay with information security governance. Another value driver is the ability of these information system resources that belongs to you, your data and information to be available when we need them. I usually use this illustration. If, for example, my organ, the annual AGM of your organization is on Monday. Today is Saturday, right? The annual AGM is taken off on Monday at the Civic Center on VI. Right? Now, today is Monday. It is taken off by 10 a.m. It is 15 minutes to 10. Everybody has gathered. But the financial statements that will be looked into during that annual AGM, they are still at Shomolu. They are still at Shomolu on the mainland, or at Mushi on the mainland, right? Or at Togba, where they do a lot of printing at Togba. Do you think those documents, those financial statements will be ready and available at Civic Center by 10 a.m.? So we see why we say information security has as one of its value drivers availability of your data and information, availability of your information system resources, continuity of service. is also another value driver. In the event of a disaster, right? Are you able to continue to render critical services? Do you have a BCP? Are you able to activate your BCP like that? I think it's coming from there. Like I was saying, availability of information, continuity of service. If, for example, like I said earlier on, there is a disaster, are you guys able to resume rendering critical services within hours, within minutes? I don't know where we were, 2011 or 2001, September 11, when the so-called terrorists hit World Trade Center in New York. Some of the organizations in that Twin Towers resumed rendering critical services 1 hour, 2 hours after that disaster. Where were they rendering that critical services from? From the World Trade Center? No way. So it means that they had contingency somewhere. So all they did was to activate their BCP. So as an IS auditor, does your organization has a BCP? Is your BCP plan, is it current? When last did they test your BCP and DRP? You are laughing at me. I know what is in your mind. When last did you guys test your BCP and DRP? It is now when something happens, you guys will be running hectare. We know now in this part of the world, we take a lot of things for granted. Self-complacency. Nothing they happen, Jari.
Because they hardly happen.
If on a bag, nothing they happen.
They hardly happen.
They hardly happen. Yeah, but that they hardly happen doesn't mean it will wait until 50 years. That a disaster has the probability of happening once in 50 years doesn't mean it will wait till the 50th year to happen. It can happen tomorrow. Yeah, fortunately for us, we live in an area where we are not prone to natural disasters.
Yes.
Yes. God bless you. Yes. It doesn't mean it won't happen. But look at us. So those of us in Lagos, look at the whole shore of Lagos. Right? The whole shore of Lagos. The Atlantic Ocean. What happens if there's a tsunami in Port Harcourt? What happens if there's a tsunami in Lagos? Your guess is as good as mine, right? All right. So, we're looking at those specific value drivers that when we see them constant, when we see them okay, we know fine that you guys are really doing something about information security governance, right? So go back and dust your BCP plan, make a test them, right? So protection of information system assets is also a value driver. Now, there is a reason why, there are further reasons why we are hammering on information security governance. Ordinarily, you would have left information security to be managed by middle level management. You would have left them to be managed by IT specialists or by IT management. Why are we saying that information security should be governed and not just managed? Look at the second bullet point. It says, security has become a significant governance issue. Why? It adduces a number of reasons. One, because of global networking made possible by what? The internet. I repeat, because of global networking made possible by what? The internet. Two, because of the rapid technological innovations, changes in IT world. When you come into IT proper, you know it happens rapidly. 3, because of increased dependence on IT. 4, because of increased, very, very key, important, because of increased sophistication of threat agents, all right? And the exploits they're able to what? Perpetrate. increased sophistication of what? Threat agents. Ransomware. Ransomware. They hold you to ransom and you must pay. How do you pay? Fine. Untraceable. The further reason underline, italicized, and extending the enterprise beyond its traditional boundaries. Extending the enterprise beyond its what? Traditional what? Boundaries. Let me give you an instance or two. During the days of Oceanic Bank under Cecilia Ibru, Oceanic Bank was a core Nigerian company, right? It has not gone international until its demise. Right?
Yes.
Fine. But Cecilia Ibru was backing up your data and information in Germany, thereby extending the boundaries of Oceanic Bank beyond its traditional what? Boundaries. MTN is a South African company founded by a South African. Is that not so? 80% of their head office activities is in Lagos, Nigeria.
Yes.
In fact, the largest data center in Africa belongs to MTN. Do you know where it is? It's somewhere here in Lagos. Somewhere here in Lagos. I've been to it, but I won't tell you because we IS auditors are not supposed to blab. You know why? A data center is not supposed to be known. It's not supposed to be identified. The data center is not supposed to have a signboard saying this is the data center of XYZ Bank. The data center is not supposed to have a signboard. The data center is not even supposed to have a window facing outside. If it has windows, it should be completely bad for security reasons. If I am a competitor, if I am an aggrieved third party, a rival, if I want to hit you, I'll go to your data center and cripple you. If you go to the data center of MTN, you see servers, Mogadishu, Nairobi, Johannesburg, Lagos, Douala, Accra. They are all at that data center. Some years ago, they asked the man, why are you taking here? They asked the man, what is he? You see, cloud too has its own risk, except if it's a private cloud. You know, there are categories there are cloud types. There is community, there is hybrid, there's private, there's even government. It has its own risk. So they asked that man some years ago, why are you taking your head office activities to Lagos? He told them, that is where, in Nigeria, that's where I make the money I used to pay you in South Africa. This is where MTN makes the money, first of all over the world. See all those South African countries.
And doesn't mean that they are billing us.
He said?
Their data does not even last anymore.
Their data does not what?
Their data does not even last anymore. We do a 1 month.
It doesn't last, my sister, but what do we do? It doesn't last, but what do we do?
And it ends up staying for a week or less than 2 weeks.
That is why you don't have good leaders, right? It is your leaders and your regulatory body that should be speaking up for you. Have we not all been clamoring for DSTV to give us pay as you go? Have they listened? What are your leaders and regulatory bodies doing about it? Nothing.
Because they are being settled off the record. They are being settled for these foreign investors to come in and do business. So for them to do a proper control check on them becomes a problem.
They cannot because it will jeopardize their business. Yeah. To jeopardize their business. Yeah, it's like you are telling me tomorrow if Atiku becomes the president of Nigeria, that you will expect Atiku to do anything for you to have regular power supply. When Atiku is chairman of this company,
Yeah.
this power company,
Mikano.
Mikano. It's not like that now. It's
You
like
will
that.
want to paralyze
So
the electricity sector so that you can
he
come to
wants his company to make money. He wants, even if there's anything he will do to cripple your power sector, he will do it.
He will do it.
He's a businessman, So that's why we pray for good leaders that God will touch their hearts. You understand? But then there are no such leaders. They are not Jesus Christ anyway. All right. So that's by the way, Sha. So we have just given at least 2 examples of how an enterprise could extend its boundaries, areas of operation beyond its traditional boundaries. So the areas in red, that second bullet point, are the areas, the reasons that underscores why information security should be governed and not just managed. Now it says, what may happen if you don't govern information security? It said negligence of information security is an integral part, negligence of information security as an integral part of IT governance, right, will diminish an organization's capacity to mitigate risk and take advantage of IT opportunities for business process improvement. Telling you that if you do not govern your information security, those are the things, the risk you stand to run. You may not be able to mitigate your risk. You may not be able to take advantage of opportunities provided by IT towards improving your business process. So far, are we following? Are we following?
Yes, sir.
Are there questions? Okay. Now, we're still discussing information security governance. And let us now look at the specifics. Like I said earlier on, information security governance is a subset of corporate governance. It provides strategic direction for security activities and ensures that objectives are achieved. It ensures that information security risk is appropriately managed and the enterprise information resources are used responsibly. To be effective, meaning for information security governance to be effective, management must establish and maintain a framework to guide the development of comprehensive information security program. Such should consist of, meaning that framework that management should develop should consist of what? 1, did anybody leave my class? I can take time. So it says that framework that should be established, right? So as to have a comprehensive information security program should consist of the following. 1, a comprehensive security strategy intrinsically linked with business objectives, meaning that whatever security strategy you have must be linked with your business objectives. If you have a security strategy and it is not linked with your business objectives, then it is null and void, using a legal terminology. Governing security policies that address such aspects of strategy, control, and regulation, meaning there should also be a governance security policy, or there should be security policies. There should be a complete set of standards for each policy to ensure that procedures and guidelines comply with policy. An effective security organizational structure devoid of conflict of interest. There should be an effective security organizational structure that is devoid of conflict of interest. There should be an institutionalized monitoring process to ensure compliance and feedback on its effectiveness. So these are the imperatives for having an information security governance program. Now, It says information is a key asset for all organizations, whether large or small. It says information is a key asset for all organization types. From its creation, that's from the creation of the information to the point whereby when you decide to destroy it, information plays an important role in an organization. So what you do with information from the point when it is created to the point when you must destroy it, it plays an important role. It says the use of information has become pervasive in organizations. That is the truth. There is no organization that does not make use of information, whether small or large, right? Whether small or large. There are some organizations that pay people to gather information for them? Yes. There are some companies, there are some programs that will just be set up and all they just want is your email address. And when they now gather millions of email addresses all over the world, they just wind down. And what would they do with those email addresses? They start to sell them to organizations. They sell them to organizations. Why do they sell them to organizations? So that they can use such email addresses to market those people that own the email addresses. There was a time I bought a database of where is that thing? I think it should still be in my possession. I bought a database of millions of email addresses. And I don't think of telephone numbers in Nigeria. All right. So the use of information has become pervasive in organizations. Also has become advancements in IT, right? Therefore, enterprises and the executives aim at the following. Since the use of information has become pervasive in organization, and then technology continues to advance, before you know it, you have Windows 10. For example, you have Windows 10, you have Windows whatever. One day, before you close your eyes and open it, you have Windows 25. Technology continues to advance. Within a space of how many years? Between 2019 and then 2023, right? We have had iPhone 11, iPhone 12, iPhone 13, now iPhone 14, right? I saw a picture of what is going to be iPhone X. You see iPhone X Fold. iPhone X Fold. Before you know it now, they will hit us with iPhone X Fold. Apple is also coming up with one other innovative earpiece. Technology continues to advance. It says, therefore, enterprises and their executives must aim at the following. They must aim at maintaining high quality information, right? Mr. Olori is no longer in this class. He's busy reading some. So, because of the pervasive use of information in organizations, because of advancements in technology, before you sleep and wake up, it says enterprises and their executives should aim at the following. One, they should aim at maintaining high quality information. They should aim at generating business value from IT-enabled investments. They should aim at achieving operational excellence through reliable and efficient application of technology. They should aim at maintaining IT-related risk at an acceptable level. They should aim at optimizing the cost of IT services and technology. And of course, they must aim at complying with ever-increasing relevant laws, regulations, contractual agreements, and policies. This all they must do to ensure that IT security is being governed in their organization. All right, so we'll leave it like that. We have a few minutes before it's 11:30. You have questions? If you cannot speak up from home, type your questions.
I want